And, well, as of right now, not 100% sure. The options are still open to them. We have seen a couple more bans towards that carry position, with the Wraith King and even the Templar Assassin sort of being taken away. But unlike the offlane pool that we were talking about in Game 1, there's just honestly kind of a stupid amount of carries that are still viable in the game right now. So Mystery Machine have their options open, part of the reason why they can sort of afford to take some of those heroes away right now. Meanwhile, for DogChamp, this is a lot of time they've spent thinking this one over, ET. 25 seconds on the reserve clock and haven't made the choice yet.
Yeah, and I think my brain's telling me they're gonna pick a Yarn hero. It will be the Yarn Murata. Okay, I was thinking about what type of four they would want in this game. Of course, with the Mars, you look at lanes like the Mars Murata, like the Mars Hoodwink, but it's kind of rough. I think if they did go for that Hoodwink, even though you do have the break for the Timber Saw, just maybe being a little bit too vulnerable versus that Storm Spirit, you could very easily just die. But the Mirana is going to be a nice choice. So we always see this lane come out, especially in SA. It just kind of wins your off lane for you, at least in the level wise, just because Mirana can, play in that large camp. She can leave you pretty consistently. Not to mention, versus the Storm Spirit, hey, you just leap in Yules. If you get that Yules onto the Storm Spirit, you're either going to force out a BKB, you're going to force out a reaction from your opponent. So I like the hero for those reasons. At the same time, I think if you're Mystery Machine, well, now you've seen the offlane. Now you could very easily go for really whatever Double King could want here. I don't feel like we're going to see them lean into a kill lane, though. I think that would be risky. I think if they try to get kills anywhere, it's going to be in that Timbersaw lane. I think it's going to be, again, another setup, something that Molly Burgos and Tib are going to need to do to then give the alley-oop over to Shaggy, and I think that's where we might see a lot of time. In terms for Dire, though, for the rest of this picking phase, easiest hero I could see is them picking maybe the Puck for Rioya. That's the Rioya here that screams to me so far in the draft, versus the Storm Spirit especially. We'll have to see if they pick at the end of this phase. I think that's probably the best position for a Puck to be picked up, just because in terms of giving it last overall pick, probably unnecessary. But meanwhile, for Mystery Machine, we should be seeing their supports. But no, there's your DK Tiny, I think.
Hmm. Okay. Well, Tiny, we talked about it in Game 1, just how sort of heavily it was being looked at in terms of a hero that increased in popularity, then started getting banned pretty frequently, but taken away this time, and as you said, that really kind of has to be Double King's heroes, especially in NA. The Tiny anywhere other than the one really just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I love the lion pick because it plays into that. Hey, if you're gonna pick Puck, and we think you're gonna pick Puck, we've now picked up one of the best four positions to play versus you. I think it's a really smart approach to the way that Mystery Machine are drafting. I think this is a much different draft and completely different drafting style that we're seeing from Mystery Machine here, and it's really feeling a lot closer. I want to say coming from the draft, we're not going to see that same slam pick where suddenly the game just changes. And you could go so far as to say now that it's completely changed Rioya's hero pick, now he's going to go to draw that lane versus the Storm Spirit. So it's going to be much easier. A lane that, again, if it's a 50-50, if High Shaggy is on that Storm Spirit, it almost feels like it's going to be a 60-40. I'd love to see him ball out of control.
And as you said, he just wins so many of those matchups, so the Leshrac is something that's going to be stable, but stability is not exactly going to slow High Shaggy down. So we'll see what Ryoya presumably on that Leshrac sort of gets for himself, and maybe starts angling maybe slightly further down the line and just sort of concedes that early to mid game to the Storm.
Yeah, and at the same time, as good of a hero as Leshrac is, and he is substantially set up with the Mars Arena and with the IO, he is certainly burstable. That's the danger of this Leshrac, is that whenever you are playing versus burst, and I mean, look at Mystery Machine, Tiny Lion Timbersaw. If they ever catch this Leshrac out, especially at those early pushes around those tier ones, this Lesh is going to die so quickly. It's where Mystery Machine want the team fight over in an instant, and DogChamp are going to look for those long fights. They're going to look to draw everything out of you. They're going to try and slow down the pace of the game. I can only imagine that in Stonebank's final hero here, we're going to see more of that delay, and we need to see more of that delay because, again, if Mystery Machine get that jump, if they get on top of you and all of their damage is felt, you're just going to die. You are simply just not strong enough to substantially take that damage. And I think that's where DogChamp, again, they got to wait. They're going to be looking for their timings way later in this game.
And you mentioned looking for a Stone Bank hero that can maybe sort of draw some of these fights out a little bit. Mystery Machine keying in on his carry options in that final ban. The Luna being taken away first, definitely a hero that can benefit from those more prolonged fights. So we credited DogChamp in the previous match for sort of doing their homework. Feels like Mystery Machine are sort of looking to turn the tables a little bit there as they ban away the Ursa as well.
Yeah, and I like the Ursa. I think that leans more into that just team fighty, get in early, get a diffusal blade. Not to mention, I think way back, maybe in BTS Pro Series 9, would always say that Leshrac Ursa, it's the perfect lineup, right? One hero pushes, the other kills the Roche. You just kind of trade over and over again. You get the shard, you give it to one of them, it just felt great. And I think that would have slotted very nicely over for Stonebank, just giving him someone to just have a lane versus the Timbersaw and then just have a very stable lane. Now, I think with the heroes that have been banned out, Stonebank's going to have to gamble a little bit when it comes to his hero choice. I feel like if they go for the more typical Stonebank hero, they look at, of course, the PL is probably the first one to come to mind, then you'll have very big problems in this game. You'll have to look for an extremely late timing. It's the simple, I think, answer to the question, what do we do versus this Tiny? When this late phase, second phase Tiny comes out, what are we going to feel confident to play versus? They could still go for the Chaos Knight if they really wanted to go for another reach, but I feel like that's where TMM have really set themselves up in a fine position. And hey, Abaddon versus Mirana, there you go. Now you're one stun, and one of your very few stuns is not going to land every other time. I think TMM have a very nice draft.
Hmm. Can really mess with the Mirana. The Mars is going to be less effective because you can't keep him trapped up for quite as long unless you're taking the Abaddon's position into account. And we already talked about Mystery Machine having so much burst damage. If you now have to worry about where the position 5 support is in addition to the cores, then it really takes away a lot of opportunities. But on DogChamp, well, there's a hero that's going to sort of slow the pace down. They do get the Dusa. You were sort of mentioning it earlier on, and I mean, nobody banned it. It's just slips through the cracks, and Stonebank has his hero.
Yeah, and it's the name of Dota, I want to say, or rather, it was the name of Dota. I've been watching the Aster versus PSG LGD games. I've been watching that series very closely, to grow as a personal Dota 2 player, and it is the name of the game over there. It's Tiny versus Medusa. It's who can get more farmed, and at the end of the day, both of these characters are going to get extremely farmed. It ends up being a question of whether or not time is always going to be your main contributor. Can the Tiny take away all of the outer towers? Does the Medusa run out of places to farm? How is the lineup going to form around her? And if I'm being honest, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for DogChamp to play on this map. The Leshrac and the Medusa, they like playing in the same vicinity. They like playing near each other. And of course, with the Medusa, you're going to push that Leshrac aside. And that's where, when it comes to rotations, when it comes to early pushes, where DogChamp find their success there, it's going to set this Leshrac for a game. And if he doesn't get that game, I think TMM are just going to have a little bit more balance in their side.
Yeah, shall see. As you can see on the screen there, unfortunately, DogChamp did not get their team tag in, so they are listed as the Dire, but you know who's who. And if you don't, good old overlays coming in handy to let you know. So, game 2, getting underway here. Mystery Machine backs against the walls a little bit after dropping that first match, looking now for the 1-1 split to push us to a full best of 3. Meanwhile, on the opposing side, DogChamp really just looking to keep the ball rolling after a dominant game 1, and as you said, we'll see what they do, because they simply cannot play with the same pace that they did in game 1. With the lineup that they have, that's just really not an option.
Yeah, and I think that's where in the Timbersaw, I think it was really picked in reaction to the Mars, and it is a very nice response where whenever this Mars is going to be going onto that bottom tower, you just simply put the Timbersaw in front of him. You need to find that burst damage. It's where I think if they can catch the Timbersaw before stacks, if they can get him in between the lanes, that's where Tib needs to be very careful. And we've seen Timbersaw is one of those offlaners, really the only exception, I think, to the law of Timbersaw is maybe Zai, where Zai can just die 6 times in a game and just be okay. But every other offlaner who plays this Timbersaw, you die 3 times in a game and the game feels over. It feels like you're not the same hero anymore. You're not that same threat on the map. And I think that's where Tib does not want to be that guy. He doesn't want to be the one dragging his teammates around. Nice trades, though, onto the IO.
It's a bit of early damage. Bounty runes, just going to be an even split there, but they're able to harass. And speaking of which, look at Jubei up in the top lane. He's just hacking away at Stonebank. That's not an insequential amount of damage. That's already one tango being used, and Stonebank need a second one here before the waves even really meet. And are they? No, they're not. Okay. I was going to say for a moment, do they commit to a tri-lane setup? They will send the Abba down bot and just run it sort of straight up here. But Jubei, damage done. Very nice start for him.
Yeah, it certainly is. And now back to the bottom lane. This should be a very easy lane for Double King. One of the things I've been most interested when it comes to this Tiny is just seeing how greedy they decide to get and what build Double King will actually go for. Because over in China, what they do is a little bit crazy. They buy Tread's Moonshard. That's how they play Tiny. They buy...
Huh?
Yeah, they do that, and everybody, you know, you don't bat an eye at it because the Monet and Ame just make it look so great. But that's where I want to say you look over at a player like Tomato, and he's still buying Echo Saver, he's still buying the more typical stuff. But you know, it's just how they like to play the game. It's very fun to watch the different types of this hero.
In fairness, Monet and Ame really kind of make anything look pretty good, but that's always the interesting part, the regional differences here, because, yeah, that's really how Tiny gets played in NA and SA. At least not from the replays I've been watching, but, well, who knows? Maybe that'll pop up once or twice in this event. For now, though, Double King not really looking like he wants to go in that direction from the quick buy, and he's got to be kind of careful here.
Ooh.
Nope, not him. It's his teammate who needs to be careful. There's going to be the Ava coming out defensively. It's enough to keep Jubei alive for now, but up in the top lane, looks like the Mystery Machine's striking first as Stonebank just gets kind of too far forward. Really, only 1 point in the shield, and I don't know, Tib doesn't really have a whole lot of damage either, but they just catch the Medusa out of position, and it's a nice first blood play for him.
Yeah, and I don't want to rewind the clock too much, but it goes back to that trade on the top bounty rune where Bloody Nine pretty much had to use all of his regen. He's greeted out for this headdress build, and of course, in the long term, this is going to feel a lot stronger, but in the short term, he didn't have a salve, he didn't have that easy reset for his teammate, and in doing so, kind of just gave Stonebank a little bit of a nasty death here. Now, he is fairly set up now. He has kind of, with the nice death reset, is kind of just able to walk and then dominate his lane because Tib is waiting for his career to come back out, but it's kind of the ebb and flow of this Medusa lane. The wave always pushes out and into the offlaner.
So unfortunate. I was watching down bot. Yaren just sort of free-fired an arrow that hit onto the Tiny, but Speed had already backed up because he didn't have enough mana to go for the spear, so just a little bit more, and I think they could have gotten the kill there, but as it stands, Double King should be just fine. Yarn, though, is going to try to get aggressive. If this arrow hits, well, it doesn't, so never mind. But Jubei still kind of dancing around his tower. Yarn doesn't want to give up, and not only is he sort of keeping Jubei back, the courier here has to do a little maneuvering as well.
I mean, this almost might be worse. Jubei was looking to die, or at least to reset, but now Yarn's just kind of keeping him captive underneath the tower. It's finally going to kind of break away here, but this is not a great position to be in. Double King is effectively 1v1ing Amariz, and of course, not having any armor outside of the tower protection, not really having the most damage either. It's not the nicest lane. At the very least, Yarn doesn't have an angle for the arrow just now, but it still feels like this Tiny is getting pressured up pretty heavily. Meanwhile, Speed is just kind of doing his thing. But yeah, finally denies himself. It still just does not feel the best. That's a lot of time your Abaddon was not laning with your Tiny.
Jubei just sort of didn't have much of a choice there. Meanwhile, in the top lane, a trade-off of couriers. Tib pushed in with the help of the Lion. They weren't able to find a kill, so they just sniped the courier and back away, but his own courier was sort of dragging behind him on the timber, so not really sure if that's worth it overall, though to be fair, feels like the Medusa needs the courier more than your sort of offlane timber in this sort of 2 to 3 minute span, so be generous, give him the benefit of the doubt on that trade, but still just trying to keep eyes on these side lanes. Mid is... it is what it is. High Shaggy and Ryoya are just going to sort of focus on the farm right now, so any early momentum has to come from these side lanes as Tib getting a little bit aggressive. Not really going to worry too much about it, I think, if you're DogChamp until you see points up in that Whirling Death, but still at least have to show some respect to the Timbersaw.
Yeah, and something I'm fairly surprised to see is that at the same time, Molly Burgos is also level 3, which is, I feel like, not something they want. I feel like you want to give your levels over to their Simbersaw. You want him to be that more selfish offlaner, and I think that's why this top lane feels a little bit awkward, to say the least. It's just a very low-level Timbersaw compared to a Medusa who is fine trading at these areas of the game. And I think that's where we might see Molly Burgos really try to take a step away and really try to give as much as he can over to the Timbersaw, because without that level 6, it really is a whimper. The single Timber Chain is not going to ever put threat on the Medusa, not to mention that he is just laning with an IO, so it's not like he's ever going to be feeling all too threatened until, again, that level 6 gets come up. But Molly Burgos is just kind of stuck in his lane here. We haven't seen that rotation to the mid nearly as easily. Not to mention, I think Rioya forced, the Storm Spirit all the way back to the base, so this is not as fun a draw as I think High Shaggy was ready for. We'll see what they do on the power rune. We could see some crazy fight here. Oh,
Spawns,
that's a fight.
Arcane, Jubei has to take it. Oh, well, with the stun being missed, maybe not. Looks like Ryo is just going to back off, but this is kind of interesting. Like you mentioned, for the Lion, Molly Burgos, he's not being that aggressive in this top lane. He's not rotating mid, and you would think at that point, okay, if you can't play in lane, you can't rotate, start stacking up some jungle camps maybe for some of your cores, but that hasn't really been the play for him either. So he's just kind of drifting between too many different roles right now, not really fully committing to anything, and I feel like after the initial laning stage ends, Mystery Machine aren't going to have that sort of fallback farm that they may have been expecting.
No, and it's good aggression in the top lane. He still has a stick if he really needs to, but you always have to be very scared of these dives, and we'll be in a pretty nice snake bounce, I do want to say, but okay. This is tactical.
No immediate DC or anything like that. There we go. Yarn having some mouse disconnected, my guy. Wired mice. Come on, get with it.
Hey,
That's,
not like he could have TP'd anyway, but top lane, it looks like they will just run away from each other. Nice kill on the Curry, though.
okay. Yeah, that's twice now Tib's been able to take out Stonebank's Courier, so do that little bit of economic damage, because, well, the health damage isn't really sticking with Bloody Nine in the lane, so do what you can. Molly Burgos just continues to hit him up with the mana drain. Only 1 point in it, but just make that Medusa less comfortable, I think is the phrase. Not vulnerable. They still haven't really been able to do too much to the Deuce outside of that one kill, but you can't just sort of sit in the lane and feel safe because you don't have the mana shield.
Yeah, and that's where Stonebank, Bloody Nine hasn't gotten the most opportunities to rotate out and stack. He has just kind of been attached to the Medusa at the hip, but it's where, unfortunately, this IO is not the best partner in this game. You want that Medusa. It's the same story with the Timbersaw, where you want solo XP. You want to be level 8, level 9. You want to have your max spells out just so you can actually farm the jungle. Yeah, mid.
The jump, where's the Vortex? They don't want to use it yet. There it is. But now Bloody Nine's in. Is this enough healing to keep his teammate alive? Ooh. No, it's not. Came pretty damn close, though. High Shaggy was starting to drop, but gets himself a power rune, haste rune, and a bottle refill, so get the kill, get away with murder, get a little boost, and now we'll see if there's any attention paid to the bottom lane, because Double King, well, I was going to say he's in trouble, but not
walked it
really.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was an arena,
I think that's where he just hit level 6 on the Tiny. He has 3 points up in the God's Rebuke. In terms of damage, it's not really there. And we talked about it a little bit in the first draft with that Mars, you know, having that Scarlet Mage banned out, you don't have that damage accelerator. And I think, yet again, as much as I like the Mars Mirana combo, just for how long you can disable a hero, it's unfortunately just not that much damage by itself, but we're in the mid lane. Shaggy, he's getting some speed, he's getting some power runes. He's top of the net worth by quite a lot, actually, at this stage of the game. And this is, I think, exactly what TMM needed to really make this game 2 look a lot closer.
Yeah, I mentioned in game 1, you know, they averaged nearly twice the kill count as their opponents. You know, they played at a slightly faster pace more often than not. And the second I said that, they were just getting completely run down. But this time around, trying to hit that faster pace as Yaren one last right click in there to take down Molly Burgos. So if you're DogChamp, these are the plays that you're going to have to get. Find those heroes alone, start moving Ryoya around. He doesn't quite have maxed out Edict, but 3 points up in it is still going to be very nice for the push onto this tier 1 bot.
Yeah, it'll be pretty much free. I don't think they should contest either, as they are actually ahead of the exchange. And look over in the mid lane. This is the rotation we always talk about with Timbersaw. He takes the safe lane tower, he walks mid, he gets those reactive armor stacks up, and Tib is actually not the tankiest Timbersaw with his skill build. He does do real damage though, and I think that Timber Chain is really the big threat here. But now it's DogChamp. We're the ones behind the exchange, and that's a beautiful hex from Burgos.
Hex into stun, into Storm Spirit. Tried and true combo, and, well, there we go. They get the tier 1s traded, they find the kill, and now the smoke play coming out as well. And look who's coming right towards them. Speed, that's not a place you want to be. He's going to turn about incredibly quickly, but how does he really get out of here? Does he want to get out? He's turning around. Arena down. Ryoya's coming in. The high Shaggy trying to get in there. They would love to focus down the Leshrac first, and they do get him. Finger of Death does most of the heavy lifting. Now, Speed and V9. I don't think they need to be worried about Mystery Machine turning around onto them, but it also means they're not in a great position to find any return kill.
And that was nerve-wracking, I think, for TMM. That was the moment. That's where they get caught in between the rotation from the towers that I was mentioning with the Timbersaw. And Tib certainly could have died there. I think that's where Shaggy, yet again, almost, I want to say, carrying his team, getting the intercept on the Leshrac. If he doesn't do that, things just look bad. And I think he's just continuously finding these plays in B9. Okay.
Speed, if he
hits
hits
be a free
that,
kill.
Maybe that's different, but with the spear missing, Shaggy should just walk away. Zip away, but point remains, he's going to be able to get himself out. Meanwhile, mid, Ryoya able to pull it back a little bit. Takes down Jubei, Tib. Well, I mentioned the fact that he can do some damage with the chain, but mid, there's no trees to really jump to, so they find the kill on Jubei and back down bot. Yaren actually rotated in, got the spear, and they were able to take down the Storm Spirit. That is, honestly, far more valuable than the play mid, and DogChamp starting to fight back a little bit.
Yeah, Shaggy maybe 1 or 2 static remnants too much. Maybe another zip would have resulted in his escape. But unfortunately, Burgos, it's just as simple as that. Spear into arrow. There you go. Relocate maybe a little bit excessive from Ryoya and Bloody 9, but I think they're going to honestly probably drop off the Leshrac here and then immediately put that pressure on the mid tower. And actually, no, they bring him back mid. Another fight for the runes, and Shaggy, he's got another arcane. He just keeps on finding these runes. He actually feels comfortable enough to get the Kyle along the way as well. Man, oh man, Shaggy, he's really looking good on the Storm. He's really warming up in this game.
Now Ryoya, I don't really think this is a fight he wants. He's trying to back away, but back in the river, Speed just kind of wandered in. He's going to drop the arena down. There's a nice spear stun onto Shaggy, but there's not enough to really follow it up. Speed gets taken down. Yaren tries for the arrow, hits onto Jubei instead of the Storm.
Oh, no.
So high Shaggy just continues to push in. Yaren dropping low. Can they finish him off? Not just yet. The zip forward, though, will finish it. At least Ryoya gets away, I suppose, but oh, hold up. Burgos, they're going to actually try and go onto Stonebank. They burned through the shield already. Here comes High Shaggy, zipping his way in, gets down the Vortex onto the Lesh rather than the Dusa. They just switch targets on a dime. They'll let Stonebank go, but they get the Leshrac.
Yeah, and again, I can't hesitate to say how good Shaggy is playing. That he's the one that makes that call. He's the one that decides the Leshrac is the danger here. Stonebank doesn't even have his ultimate. Why kill the Medusa? And I think he's really just the driver. He's really the engine of this team right now. And okay, Burgos does get picked off. He does die, maybe overextending a little bit. But during all of this time, Double King has had the freest time in the world top lane. He's been able to finish off pretty much any item he's wanted to go for. I love that he's got this Blink Dagger queued up after the Ag Shard. I think having him participating in these fights is just going to be the playmaker that they absolutely need. He does need to be careful top if they wanted to relocate, but it's where this Tiny is really starting to ball out of control. Once he hits level 12 as well, all that armor, it's just such a hard kill to get. Double King really doesn't need to be scared at all in this mid game once he hits that.
I think the thing to point out, like you were saying, Double King is really playing similarly in terms of position and style than he was to game 1, but this time it's by design rather than by necessity, as the relocate will get the Medusa out of there. In game 1, he was split pushing and farming out lanes because he could not fight. This time, he's doing it because he has a clear-cut sort of progression in mind that he's making some pretty impressive progress towards. So, one of the other benefits of this Storm, of High Shaggy playing so well, as you've sort of mentioned, the pressure is completely off of this Tiny. They straight up do not need him right now. He can just farm.
And now, this is going to be big. Yule's... Oh, no! That is a tragedy. But the Blink Dagger, that's the other item timing. Okay.
Salvaged, maybe. Tib will taking down Shaggy. Oh my god, Shaggy. lost like 2/3 of his health there on the jump in. Finger of Death, though, still gets him a kill onto Yaren, but Shaggy does not have the health to keep this fight going. He's going to fall back. Jubei has to pop the ult to avoid the stun there. But he may still be taken down if they want to dive. Look at that speed. Using that blink once again. Gets on the Molly Burgos. They find the kill. Jubei now alone under the tower, trying to get away, but not able to survive that max level snake. So DogChamp, okay, you have to sacrifice Yaren, but that's 3 big kills going their way into a tier 1 tower push. And I said before, you know, they didn't really need Double King. They could let him farm. Might be changing in the next couple of minutes.
Ooh, and really, if that Timber Sub made his way just maybe a little bit faster to that Abaddon, maybe we see a much different game play out, but that could be the start of this snowball. And you can see in DogChamp, they know that they're stronger. They know they've hit their slight item timing here, and this is the punishment as well onto High Shaggy's build specifically, not getting that BKB first. You'd have it right now. Instead, he's going to need to be a lot more careful in doing so, almost baiting his teammates to wait for a lot of these spells used. And a 4-man smoke into killing Double King, this could be huge, but Jubei, he's trying to scout it out. He's trying to give room, but there's the Yules.
Bloody 9 just relocated in alone. That's a little bit weird, but now the fight is potentially going to turn. Ryoya is actually the first one taken down. Shaggy now immediately looking to get onto the IO, and they are going to be able to lock him down, and this is just kind of turning into a disastrous sort of fight. Molly Burgos gets eyes on Yaren, and that is the difference of a couple of seconds. Jubei takes one more step to the left, pops that smoke that little bit early, and Mystery Machine get all the warning that they needed. That's terrible. That's relocate used, and still 3 heroes dead, and now Double King can not only continue to farm, but push a tier 2 tower in this top lane as well.
Yeah, and I'm really confused because that Yules that started off onto Double King, it felt like maybe Ryoya was waiting for the arrow perhaps and was going to chain stun with the split earth, but in doing so, he didn't split earth, the arrow didn't come through, then he gets Avatos, then the Tiny gets shield. New teammates, you know, they've got to get comfortable with each other, and that's something I was going to mention and maybe praise a little bit in Game 1, but the Game 1 draft for DogChamp, they did not need to play together. They did not need to do anything as High Shaggy gets another free kill in the jungle. But in Game 1 DogChamp, they could play their lanes by themselves. You didn't really need to see that cohesive, you know, map-wide strategy. In this game, though, they're playing with each other much more than they were in the previous game. And that's where, if you are a new team, that connect isn't as simple. It's where a team like TMM, who's been playing together so consistently in the season, is going to feel a little bit more comfortable. And I think that's where, with the lanes not going as well, we're seeing that fall apart a little bit from DogChamp.
Okay. Bloody 9's able to make his escape. Had to pop the mech there, so that's on cooldown, but lives to see another day. His teammate, though, may not be as fortunate. Yaren's going to get caught out, hexed up, dropping low, and Tib is going to be able to find that kill. But up in the top lane, okay, if they can make this trade, this would be big. Double King is so damn low, and Speed is able to finish that one off. So they'll take that trade, but now can they get away with it? Because Blade 9, yeah, just going to have to sacrifice himself to get the cores away.
Yeah, kind of sucks, you know, still lose Tiny with really all of these heroes around kind of backing him up, but at the same time, you're still getting an incredible amount of farm bottom from Shaggy. Just finished off his Kaya Sanj. He's going to have really all of this control in the river. No real contestation of Stonebank's farm, though, and that's certainly going to be a concern going forward, but he's still working on his Scotty. He's about to work towards that first ulti orb, and then maybe we see some more pressure get put on him, but right now, TMM are on the run. They're trying to escape right now, but this vision to back them up is going to get dewarded, assuredly, from Bloody 9, but a lot of time that they're spending here. Oh, what a hex!
Quick hex turn around. They'll get the stun down as well, but I don't know if this is a fight they can really take until reinforcements arrive, and they're not really getting any. Jubei's here, but it's an ABBA. But they turn around, they sort of break up that initiation, and I mean, Speed had a pretty solid play there. It's just that the line's that little bit faster on the draw, and now your arena's down for a bit over a minute. See if they look to continue that aggression or if they just sort of wait it out, because they've caught Tib, but, well, do they have the damage? If Ryoya's coming over, okay, maybe they do, and yeah, they will be able to clean it up. 4 heroes in, but gonna be worthwhile to find that kill. But in this, in the meantime, TMM, excuse me, going for the smoke play, but now without Tib, this could get a little risky.
Ooh, Speed, he's breaking.
Got the spear stun. That'll take Molly Burgos out of the initial fight, but he does still get the Hex off. And now, well, that kind of leaves Speed all alone. But look at that. Look at the healing coming in, keeping him alive. They're going to turn the fight around. Double King isolated from his teammates. They blow him up. They take Jubei down as well, and they're going to look for even more. They've got eyes on the Lion. Molly Burgos is not getting away. He's just has to buy time to try and get Shaggy out of here. But with the relocate, they are thinking about chasing, and I'm not sure if they know, but he doesn't have a TP, so he just has to zip away as far as he can on the mana he had left, and it looks like he will escape. But that is a pretty clear-cut win for DogChamp on the fight.
Yeah, it's where TMM, their aggressive genes are, I think, getting the best of them a little bit here. They make that 4-man smoke going in a full 5 on DogChamp, thinking with the vision advantage, they can fight without their Timber Saw. And we both know, if they have the Timber Saw there, when they initially break on speed, if they just decide to wait for that Timber Saw to simply respawn, then that Mars dies. He doesn't get saved from the Wisp. The Wisp, it doesn't have enough healing to deal with the Timber Saw specifically, and then Bloody Nine probably dies in tow. But instead, they make the gamble play, probably assuming that Stonebank isn't going to be there either, but in that gamble, Stonebank shows up, he pops the Stone Gaze, the Tiny dies really without doing anything. They lose pretty much everyone aside from the Storm Spirit, and you'd hate for that to be the way that everything starts slowing, the game plan starts halting, and it kind of feels like that's what's happening right now. I think TMM, they need to get another successful smoke, they need to get another team fight, and then they can be happy pausing the game, because unfortunately, you pause the game right now, Stonebank is almost going to be building up his Scotty, he's one component away, and then how are you going to take a team fight? I don't think you can. You're going to have to play that ratty style of Dota that, again, previously DogChamp was mainly known for, but looking over at Ryoya as well, with these successful team fights, he's recovered. His lane doesn't matter. He's got a BKB and a Yule Scepter. He is battle ready. Meanwhile, I think TMM, we're still struggling. Shaggy doesn't even have his BKB yet. He's, I think, another 700 gold off. It's just a completely different pace that I think TMM are setting for their heroes where, again, DogChamp are more cohesive.
Yeah, it just feels like they've got a better grasp on their execution compared to their opponents, as you said, and if you're the Mystery Machine, you would love to try and get aggressive. Go for that smoke play, as you mentioned, but, oh, gotta try and be subtle about it. They can't just run at their opponents, and I think the big thing, the takeaway from that top lane that you mentioned just a couple minutes before that fight is, hold up, Shaggy, okay. Zips in, realizes there's more heroes here than he would like to deal with, and backs himself away, but a couple minutes before that last fight, you were talking about how sort of well-placed their vision was in this north side jungle. It started getting taken away by Yarn and Bloody Nine, but TMM sort of continued to play like they had that vision and ended up sort of walking into a trap. So if they can reestablish that degree of control in the jungle, then by all means, they can sort of go for those sort of aggressive risks. But without it, they're just sort of jumping in blind.
Yeah, and this is the concern, and as we talk about with Medusa, it's all about the pecking order. It's getting the support before anyone else. It's how you can really pull apart a team fight. Okay, whiff on the spear, but this is still very hard. And look at the arena. It's got Jubei all the way on the other side.
Tib taken down. Jubei, no TP, gonna get canceled by the Yules. Ryoya should just be able to finish him off here. Got both kills. There was a TP out, at least from Molly Burgos, so they will mitigate the damage, but again, you make that move, you don't have that same concrete vision that they previously had, and you run into more heroes than you anticipated.
And that's so great from Speed. I mean, that arena is just so perfect, and they've got to contest. I completely agree. They need to get in there. They're playing into every single item timing on DogChamp's side, though. They are as strong as they possibly could be, aside from maybe the Mars's BKB, but they are really trying to get in here, and they really need to, but I think he's simply going to try and just, yeah, they're making the space, they're Yule Sceptering, they're not letting anybody get close.
This is bad. He bought back for this, and he's just going to get completely wiped. There's no one to even attempt to help him now.
At this point, it's just Shaggy.
And he do it. That's a bit of an early zip in, and now the BKB's been activated as well, so Double King feels the need to initiate. They're going to try and go in. That's a nice toss into the Ava into a 2-man stun, and Shaggy did manage to get the Aegis. He actually got the kill too, so they get the gold and the Aegis. Now they need to get away with their lives. That's going to be a little bit more complicated. Molly Burgos getting run down here. They won't find him initially, but that's only because they were taking down Double King in the river. Obviously the far more valuable target, but if you're Mystery Machine, I mean, that's a win. You get the kill gold, you get Aegis out of your opponent's hands and now into the Storms, who can do quite a bit with it, and maybe you've staggered that momentum just the slightest bit here.
Yeah, and it is funny. I mean, during that fight, seeing Shaggy just commit onto the Roche with his 9-second BKB, just killing the Roche, trying to stun the Medusa, but that was their only moment. And of course, it was a terrible situation to lose the Timbersaw early, but that was the one fight they knew they could take without Stone Gaze, and of course, still losing Double King, the Tiny certainly feels a lot more sad, but hey, they're still trying. They're still making these plays. They're still holding their high ground, but it does feel like now Stonebank will just be able to kind of become that monster, and he's certainly posturing like it. There isn't really anyone to go on him at this rate. I think that's where we might need to see that next set of items before we see that confidence. This is crazy.
Yeah, this is not looking fantastic here. They tried to make the move, but Speed just sort of cuts him off the knees with the arena. They're still fighting their way through this, but with Stonebank now getting in, it's over. This fight's done. You just have to fall back. Molly Burgos dies and buys back. Tib now getting run down as well. Can they track that kill? Yes, they can. Tries to chain back in, and they will die. And ET, I'm not 100% sure what the plan was.
It's so deep. I don't know. It's them just trying to be the provocateurs in this game, and really just not successful. And hey, you use your glyph, you use really everything on your side of the map. At least you're gonna have these fountain zips, but there's the Yules. This could be first life.
Are locking him down. He's able to zip away for now, though. But that's that's because they're shifting targets. Double King gets taken down, and Shaggy's gonna lose that first life. And at this point, your Mystery Machine, I don't know, you might just have to sort of cut your losses here, because if they lose everyone again, it's going to be way more than just the one lane of Raxes. Molly Burgos will die. Jube's getting pushed out of the fight. High Shaggy now caught by the Yule Scepter again. Do they have the lockdown? Yes, they do. And they find the kill, and ET, I think Mystery Machine just went from losing one lane of Rax to, at this point, maybe just losing the game. I mean, DogChamp aren't backing off.
Yeah, and I mean, they can't get Megas, and yeah, they will call it GG, because they know their damage does not scale versus the Medusa. They had their opportunity in this game to really keep their head above water, but just a few over-aggressive throws here and there, that's all it takes. And I think that's where DogChamp kind of just played around you. They didn't need to deal with you forever. They kind of got worked by you in the early game by High Shaggy, but that was really it. I think the few fights the Double King decided to show up to at the end of that game just kind of ruined everything for the Tiny. It felt like he was going to be able to keep even versus the Medusa, but then everything just kind of broke apart. And I mean, we see the definitive GG very obviously, I think, just because you don't have any hope versus the Medusa. That's why the hero is so popular, because that is just GG. You can't do anything. You just kind of lose after a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, just not a whole lot to be done. Wow. Coordinator is down, so unfortunately I don't really get a post-game stat screen to show to you guys, but I mean, it pretty much played out exactly the way that it plays out when you go up against the Medusa. They gave too much time, they couldn't apply the pressure, and there was just really no way back in once you've given up that much ground to that lineup that early on.
Yeah, and I think that's where for TMM, it was a conscious decision, I think, with a lot of their heroes and a lot of their item choices, where it just didn't simply match up as nicely as it did for DogChamp. We didn't see the rush of the BKB. We didn't see the Blink Dagger actually picked up by the Tiny. He went for the Shadow Blade instead, and I think it's where the small choices along the ways in those items end up being delayed and being time, and it's where you don't have as tight a game as your opponents do. And you look at DogChamp, and they're the polar opposite. They get their Yules, they get their Blink Dagger, they smoke, they fight you, they win the fight, they go back to their side of the map. They get their Scotty, they get their next item, they smoke, they find a fight, they get their BKBs. We didn't see that from TMM ever, and I think in their next series, that same semblance and that same, I want to say, map-wide awareness, it needs to come from their players. Somebody's got to speak up. Maybe it comes from the captain, maybe it needs to be Jube, but they simply need to say, this is going to be our timing in 2 minutes. We hit that timing, we're better than our opponents, we fight, we win. Because I think that was just severely lacking in the series.
Well, I mean, there's still going to be time for adjustments here on the side of Mystery Machine. They lose this series, but they're not out of Phase 1 just yet. They do drop down to that lower bracket, though, so well, adjustments will need to be made again, as we said, after game number 1. So we'll see if they can do that. We'll see who their opponents are going to be as well. They're going to be waiting on the results of the second series today. Before we move on to that second series, though, I put blah, 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 blah. Let me try that one again. We are going to have an interview here. I think we have Speed coming in to talk to us, so we will step away for just one moment while I get all of that set up, and then we'll be back for that winner's interview. So stick around. Interview with Speed coming up in just a couple of minutes.